saw some things at the home that were concerning to us. We believe now, after we processed that crime scene, that we do in fact have a crime scene, that we do in fact have a crime. We know she didn't just walk out of there. She did not leave on her own. Nancy Guthrie is of great sound mind. This is not a dementia related. She is as sharp as a tack, and we're asking the community's help.
Breaking overnight, a person detained, a home searched, and chilling images released. Could investigators be closing in on whomever took Nancy Guthrie? Plus, we are zeroing in on the masked intruder and talking about the key clues that could crack this case. Plus, closing arguments expected this morning in the Mansion murders trial. Defendant Paul Caneiro's fate is soon in the hands of the jury. Also this hour, Austin 2.0. Defense witnesses saying the teen who went on a killing spree in North Carolina is a different person now. We'll talk about how their testimony may tip the scales of justice at his sentencing. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Wednesday morning to you, and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. Are you ready for some coffee and some court? This is the program where we get you all warmed up and ready to go for the big day ahead on Court TV Live. So, want to have you grab that cup of coffee or tea or whatever you're having this morning. We've got a big show planned. Let's get it started. It's time for my opening statement. Her life mattered. Tara Baker's life mattered. She was sexually assaulted and murdered when she was only 23 years old. She was a student at the University of Georgia School of Law. And we heard her boyfriend at the time, Chris Melton, take the stand and tell us how smart, vibrant, beautiful, and sweet Tara was. She had her whole life ahead of her, and she had big plans for her legal future. Did you know that Tara Baker was aspiring to become a United States Supreme Court Justice? And she just might have done it. Look at the current makeup of our court, my friends. 4 of the 9 justices are women. Tara Baker could have been one of them. Maybe number 5 and change the ratio, who knows? The sky was the limit for her. A brilliant young lady, and her family was heartbroken with her murder. And they have waited far too long. They've been waiting since 2001 to get justice. Think about that. And I hope and I pray that soon they get it. That's my opening statement on this Wednesday. Let me know if you like it. Right now, time for your daily docket.
The evidence will show that Jesse and Sophia were still alive and breathing after their uncle repeatedly stabbed them. Still alive and breathing after their uncle set fire to their home and left them. Still alive and breathing as the smoke began to rise from the basement. And that, you will learn, is how those 2 children spent the final moments of their lives.
In New Jersey, closing arguments are expected in the Mansion murders trial for defendant Paul Caneiro. Court gets underway at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. We're going to take you live there in our next hour. In North Carolina, we've got the defense case continuing in the sentencing for teenager defendant Austin Thompson. This is a wild case. The hearing is going to start back up at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. And in Michigan, we have a hearing expected for defendant Dale Warner ahead of his very high-profile murder trial. The opening statements, by the way, my friends, are scheduled for tomorrow. This guy is accused of killing his once missing wife, Dee Warner. And her remains, you'll recall, were found in a sealed tank on Dale's property. Now to a story breaking overnight. We have a possible turning point in the desperate search for Nancy Guthrie. The Pima County Sheriff's Department says that a person of interest was detained. Authorities say that person was stopped during a traffic stop south of Tucson Tuesday and taken in for questioning. Hours later, a man saying that he was that individual told reporters that he was the one who had been released from the detention. Goes by the name Carlos. Federal and local authorities searched a home in Rio Rico under a court order. This is about 12 miles from the Mexico border. Now, this comes just after the FBI released images and video of a masked suspect at Nancy Guthrie's front door the night that she vanished. Just chilling video released. So let's talk about it with our expert investigators. Let's bring in private investigator Manuel Gomez and retired NYPD detective Tom Smith. Good morning to you both. I want to start with you, please, Tom, with the video, and then we're going to get to the man who was detained. So let's just focus on the video for now with you both. Tom, tell me, what did you first think when you saw this? Give us your observations, please.
The very first thing I thought of was I didn't feel this was a professional. He walked up just kind of lazily walking around, not really focused on what I think he should have been, you know, as looking at the house the way he did. The camera seemed to surprise him a little bit. He wasn't prepared for it. If you have knowledge of a camera there, that's probably the first thing you're going to try to cover up, not grab a bunch of, you know, bushes and vines to cover up a camera. The gun is in a very strange and awkward position, not really looking too professional with that. And the gloves he has on are too cumbersome to get to that gun if he wanted to use it in any way. But I think, Julie, the other thing is there are many identifiable characteristics of that video of this individual that people are going to know. If someone knows this individual, they're going to know them. The backpack is concerning to me because I want to know what's in it. And we can get into that as well. But it's a concerning video, but it's the beginning of this. There's much more to do.
Yes, I love your analysis, Tom. Manuel, same question to you. Walk us through your observations, please.
Well, when I saw this video, like Tom said, I realized this guy wasn't a professional, and I agree with Tom 100%. I don't think that this guy was the one that had the mental skills to do that ransom note. Okay, clearly, because when you look at him, the way he's walking, carrying, trying to pull weeds to cover the camera, the way he's carrying the gun, clearly this is somebody that's, you know, not as intricate as the one that said the ransom note. The other thing I noticed immediately is when you look at the way he walks like a man who's in his mid-40s to early 50s. So I would say that the guy what we're looking for is between 45 and maybe 53, around there. And then if you look at that archway is anywhere between about 8 feet. So he looks about between 5'10" to about 6 foot. And I would roughly say about that guy looks about 200 pounds. The other thing is the backpack, and that's an indicator right there. That backpack was completely full, which tells me he most likely had rope, he had duct tape, and possibly a way to drag her body like what we use in combat. There's like a body bag where you could put a body on and then pull it along. So he did his homework on that. That's why I believe that backpack was so full.
Yes, yes. Great analysis, Manuel. So you both agree not a professional. So friends at home, we have two very seasoned professionals on the show this morning, not a professional. Okay, so in terms of whether that's good for Nancy Guthrie's safety or bad for her safety, Tom, what would you say?
That's a great question, Julie, because, you know, if you're not a professional, you're going to panic and you're going to overreact to something, and that could be a detriment to Nancy. The time of this is concerning. Professionals have a timeline when it comes to kidnappings. They make the grab, they leave a note or get in contact with someone who's going to deliver a ransom. The ransom's done and the person's released. The longer they hold on to a victim, the more chances that law enforcement can track them down. That's why professionals don't drag on kidnappings. And that's why another reason why I think this is one or maybe more, probably more amateurs that are doing this that got wrapped into something that right now they are completely unable to handle.
Mm-hmm. Right, Tom. Manuel, let me ask you this. So I was wondering all along if there was going to be something retrieved, you know, however it's retrieved from the software when they say that a camera is removed and disturbed, and, you know, and here this was done. I'm wondering if this was not done yesterday, but just announced yesterday. Do you think, Manuel, this could have been done, you know, days ago, that the FBI has been looking for this character whoever this person is, but only is letting the public know now. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I want to say kudos and, my accolades to the FBI. Congratulations on the great work done on retrieving that video. Do I believe that it was done yesterday? No, I believe that video was obtained possibly maybe 3 to 4 days ago. All right. And, but again, this is a long process, but due to the nature of the visibility of this case and due to the fact that the FBI's relationship forced Google and, the Ring camera system people to be able to produce this video was phenomenal. But like my partner said, I agree with him. This is someone that most likely didn't do it by himself. There's most likely somebody sitting in that car waiting for him. But this is an unprofessional person, and it most likely is someone that they do know.
Gotcha. I have some brand new footage I want to show you both this morning. So our Scripps affiliate in Phoenix, KNXV, got an interview with the man who's going by the name Carlos, who was detained late last night and has been released since. So let's take a listen to what he said.
How would you describe what happened to you?
Terrifying. Something I didn't do for something. I was being I felt like I was being kidnapped, bro. They didn't tell me anything at the beginning.
And investigators showed up to this house, or were you the one who was pulled over in the traffic stop?
I was the one that was pulled over at the traffic stop.
Where was that?
Right here on by Chubasco.
Okay, and you were taken into custody at that point?
Yeah.
And you were...
I was being detained.
Detained, okay.
I was detained the whole time.
Okay,
That's
where?
what they told me.
Where were they
At
holding
the back of a car.
Back of a car.
I ran a car, and then they moved me into a Pima County Sheriff.
Okay, so Tom, your thoughts on the detention and then the release, of course, of this man, Carlos.
Well, here's the interesting thing. The FBI and the court is not going to take it upon themselves just to do this randomly, okay? The FBI doesn't do that. The FBI plays out a scenario and then acts on it. This was not a tip. This was some sort of information they got specifically about this individual. In order to get a court-ordered search warrant, you need to prove that that individual is maybe involved in this, and the specifics of that search warrant have to be okayed by a judge. So you have to lay out your probable cause to go into that house and start looking around. This was a little bit more than just a traffic stop. This was a target, all right? And we're not going to know why until maybe later on down the road. But being that you're released doesn't mean completely you're off the hook yet.
Yeah, that's a good point. The investigation is still going to keep playing out. We have more questions for you both. Tom Smith, Manuel Gomez, stand by, please. We'll hit a break. Our coverage continues in the search for Nancy Guthrie.
We are ready to talk. Mama, if you're listening, we need you to come home. We miss you.
We want to hear from you. We haven't heard anything directly.
This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
We're taking a closer look at the Guthrie family. So much speculation going on in the court of public opinion. Will some family members feel pressure to speak out? Plus, closing arguments expected in our next hour in the Mansion murders trial for Paul Caneiro.
This week,
Previewing each day's proceedings in the murder trial of Dale Warner. Plus, the latest developments in the abduction of Nancy Guthrie.
opening statements with Julie Grant. Mornings at 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
The tragic murder of Keith Caneiro and his entire family.
This one is the most brutal case that I've seen in my experience here.
The Mansion Murders Trial. Live coverage today on Court TV.
Despite having already passed through great trials of pain and grief, we are always going to be merely human, just normal human people who need our mom.
The Guthrie family continues to be under the microscope as the search for their 84-year-old mom continues to be a trending topic this morning. Surveillance images of a masked person outside of Nancy Guthrie's home the night she vanished were released on Tuesday. No word yet if the person detained by the Pima County Sheriff's Department, the Sheriff's Department hasn't said anything about the person who was detained being connected to this video. They were released, as you just saw in our last segment. Now, let's talk a little bit about some of the public pressure that's mounting. Savannah Guthrie put a post on Instagram after the images were made public, saying someone out there recognizes this person. We believe she is still out there. Bring her home. Savannah and her siblings have released a series of video statements pleading for help as some people in the court of public opinion are launching their opinions all over the internet. And that, of course, can create pressure for anybody who's under the microscope in a case like this. So this morning we're wondering, will the family feel any pressure from this? Will it make any family members want to speak out more to stop any rumors or speculation that's circulating in the public realm? Let's talk about this. Let's bring back in Manuel Gomez and Tom Smith and welcome in criminal defense attorney Franz Borghardt. Franz, I'll start with you because this is a question that perhaps the Guthrie family is getting legal advice on. The court of public opinion, it never goes out of session, as we know. Lots of speculation out there. What would you say to anyone in the family who may be feeling some kind of way and feeling some pressure to say something and dispel some of the rumors out there?
This strikes me as a family that is working in concert with law enforcement, and they're probably taking cues from law enforcement as to frequency of videos and at least having discussions. So what I would say to anybody who's feeling froggy in the family or friend circle of the main core family is stand down. You may not necessarily make things better, and you could make things worse. So, I would defer to the core family and law enforcement before I would jump on social media. Obviously, comments about, we're praying for her. We're hoping she gets home. Those are okay. I don't think those are going to move the needle one way or another. But now is not the time to go rogue. Now is not the time to decide that you're going to be a social media vigilante. I would let the experts work with the core family and then let them take the wheel.
Mm-hmm. Right. Sage advice, Franz. So a lot of people wondering, who is Annie Guthrie's husband? Tommaso Cioni is his name, and we know very little about him. Here's what we know according to reporting from the New York Post. We know that he's 50 years old. We know he's a 6th grade science teacher in the Tucson area. Again, married to Savannah's sister, Annie. And from what we know here at Court TV, Annie was the last person to see her mom, Nancy, alive on Saturday night. Again, New York Post reporting on these details. Tom Smith, let me go back to you. In any serious case, homicide, kidnapping, whatever we're dealing with, talk to me, please, about how law enforcement officials are going to look at the family first.
Well, it's done by history. I mean, look at the historical perspective of some of these cases, and you start with what you know right away. So you start in the inner circle. Who saw her last? Any disputes, anything going on within the family, and then you kind of branch yourself out, working outward from there. But a lot of times, in the public eye, nowadays, no one likes a mystery. Everyone needs a villain, to point that. So that might just be this with the son-in-law and bringing him up all the time. There's been no indication of that. But then again, law enforcement is not going to put out there what they're doing. We know probably about 10% of what the FBI and the sheriff's office actually know and what they're working on. And that's very small when you look at the complexity of this case.
Right, good points, Tom. Manuel, let me go to you next, please. When we think about who may have done this, do you think this was done by someone with some kind of inner circle type knowledge? And by inner circle, I don't necessarily mean family, blood, not blood, but somebody who may be familiar with Nancy Guthrie and the situation, and her being elderly, living alone, the mother to Savannah Guthrie, a famous person in our country. What do you think, or do you think this is something else entirely?
Well, I believe that the mother really doesn't bring a significant value. It's the daughter, okay? I believe that the person that did this does know the family, is somehow connected to their weekly routine, either with the church or within the community, and somehow, due to the fact of the daughter's publicity and possibly covered a story he didn't like or said something on the news he didn't like, and that's why this happened. Again, do I believe that this guy is the mastermind who did this ransom? No. But I do believe that this is somebody close-knit and is most likely nearby. Again, like Tom said, you know, when it comes to the brother-in-law, the police have been there. They have photographed the garage and so forth. So I think they need to lean a little bit more on him as well. But I do believe that it is someone in a close-knit circle, and that's going to be revealed shortly.
Yeah, we sure hope they're getting closer. Tom, do you think that what we saw last night, you know, the detention, the searching of a home, the releasing of the video images earlier in the day yesterday, do you think these are any indications of us getting closer?
Well, you hope so. And I've said this so many times, the video being out there is enormous, because I've said this, the police can't be everywhere, but the public can be. So the more you get it out there, the more someone is going to recognize this guy. If you know him and you watch his mannerisms and maybe his clothing of recognizability, you're going to know who it is. And that's what they're hoping for. Just keep putting it out there and keep putting it out there. Listen, there's going to be thousands and thousands of leads that are going to come in because of this video. And that's okay. And they're going to run down every one of them. And you hope one of them leads somewhere.
Exactly. We hope and pray that it leads to Nancy Guthrie being alive and well. Tom Smith, Manuel Gomez, thank you both for your insight and expertise. We'll see you soon. Franz Borghardt's coming with us. You do the same at home, please. We'll hit a break. Still to come here on Opening Statements.
And at that time, my dad started screaming and crying that my uncle's house was on fire. Sorry. I wanted to make sure they were okay.
Will Paul Caneiro's daughter's testimony hurt or help his case? We're about to witness the all-important closing arguments any minute now in the Mansion murders trial. We'll take you there live. Plus, the defense case rolls on in the sentencing of a teenager, this guy, this kid, who went on a killing spree. Will some of the witnesses tip the scales of justice? That's coming up.
He snuck up on the family while they slept. Waited for his brother Keith to come outside. The defendant gunned him down, and he stabbed his niece Sophia 17 times. He started a fire. He certainly did not brutally murder the family members that you will hear he loved and cherished and adored so much. They want you to follow the money? Well, so do we.
Welcome back. In our spotlight this morning, we're looking ahead to the closing argument set to happen this morning in the Mansion murders trial for Paul Caneiro. That starts up at 9 a.m. Eastern time. The defense resting its case on Tuesday, and prosecutors chose not to put on any rebuttal case. Caneiro is accused of murdering his brother Keith, Keith's wife Jennifer, and their two young children, Sophia and Jesse. The allegation is that it was over a business dispute, money. Today, we're set to hear those closing arguments, and it was Tuesday that really caught many people's attention with Paul Caneiro's 2 daughters taking the stand and testifying to help their dad in his defense.
Was he a good dad or?
Yeah.
Objection.
It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. Sustained.
Okay. How about your dad as a brother? How was his relationship with Keith?
It was very good. They were very close. They did everything together.
And what about your dad as an uncle? How was he with Jesse and Sophia?
I mean, he treated them like he treated me and Marissa like his own kids, and he would drop everything for us. He'd always be there. He was very supportive. And he was just good to have around.
What about specifically about Jesse? What, if anything, can you tell us about their bond?
They had a great relationship. They had a lot of things in common. Jesse loved history. My dad loves history. So they would do a lot of things like that. When Jesse was learning how to swim at the Silton Club, he asked my dad, who I tagged along with, and we watched his little race when he learned to swim. And then one time, I think Jesse was in preschool, he was able to bring a special friend to show off to his class, and he invited my dad.
Did your dad and Jesse ever do things together, like lunch or anything like
Yeah,
that?
they did a lot together. When Jesse was bored at home, he would call my dad to hang out, and either Jesse would get dropped off or my dad would go there. But they did a lot together. The fire started in the basement, and it went up the back of my house, which was the master bathroom and the master bedroom, not the bedroom. Master closet, not the bedroom.
Okay, so the master bedroom closet was where
Yes.
the fire started, right?
No, it ended in the closet.
Okay, but it was on that side of the house. You
Yes.
understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay.
But the bedroom went all the way across.
Understood. It wasn't closest to your dad's room, right?
No, it was closest to the master and my sister's side of the house.
Got it. Now, your mom, you guys had some just Australian sheepdogs, is that right?
Yes.
2 of them?
Yes.
Okay. And I think you indicated, or you may have been indicated, that they were with your mom in bed?
That's where they slept in.
Okay. Did you ever hear them barking in the night?
No.
Now, on 11/19 of 2018, you worked all day?
Yes.
And then you got home at, I think you said at about 6:15, correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't remember the exact time, but 5, 6, yes.
Okay.
That sounds normal.
Were you the last one to go to bed that night?
Yes.
Your sister and your mom went to bed before you, is that correct?
Yes.
And you went up to bed at about 11:30?
Yes.
Now, when you came home, your dad was already up in his bedroom in the guest room, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and you did not see him the rest of the night, is that right? Okay, I know you indicated, I think, on direct examination that he was sleeping?
Yes.
Okay. You didn't see him though, so you can't say what he was doing, is that correct?
No, I didn't go in his room.
Now, obviously, you wouldn't be able to see anything or hear anything that he may or may not have done when you were sleeping, is that correct?
What? Sorry.
You were not able to see your dad, anything he may have been doing in the middle of the night while you were sleeping, is that correct? And he was the first person you saw the next morning, is that right?
Yes.
He was the one that woke you up?
Yes.
Yeah, so obviously he was already awake before you were awake, is that correct?
I took sleeping pills the night before, so I did not hear the fire alarm.
Okay. But he was awake prior to you being awake, is that correct?
Yes, I was the last one awake.
Were you taken downstairs to a conference room?
Yes.
And while you were in that conference room with your dad, did you learn any information about what was happening with your family?
When we were alone, me and him.
Yeah, here, I'll back up. At some point, are you in the conference room with your entire family?
Yes.
Okay. And thereafter, were certain members of your family taken out, and were you left alone with your dad in the conference room?
Yes. My mom and sister were taken out of the room, and then it was just me and my dad in there.
Okay. And when it was just you and your dad, was there a point in time where you learned information about your family?
Yes. A police officer came in, and he told me and my dad that...
I'm sorry.
Sustained.
Did you learn what happened, just without saying what was said, did you learn what had happened with your Uncle Keith and Jennifer and their family?
Yes.
And did you learn that they were deceased?
Yes.
Okay. And can you just describe that
that moment that you learned that and what your reaction was and what your dad's reaction was? I would object to relevance.
You can answer as it relates to your dad.
When they told us that everyone died, my dad was really upset and crying. He fell to the floor, and I was sitting across from him at that point. So I got up, and I was on the floor with him, just holding him. He was crying a lot, and my shoulder was wet. And then eventually they told me I had to leave the room as well. So I don't know what else happened.
Okay, so that was a look at Paul Caneiro's daughters. Did they help their dad? What do you think? Let's bring in criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Franz Borghardt. Franz, what do you say? You're shaking your head, my friend. Talk to us, please.
So kudos to them for trying to help their father. What daughters wouldn't want to help their father when he's in this terrible, terrible position? That said, all trial, they've tried to paint him as loving. The defense has tried to paint him as a loving, caring human being. And not just that, Julie, but loving and caring towards the victims. The problem with that is everyone's loving until they brutally murder their nephew and niece with stabbing, which, by the way, is the most up-close, personal, horrible way to kill somebody. So I don't know that they helped at all. They both looked very disinterested to be there. And in fact, when we were watching it, I started thinking, I wonder if they believe it's possible their father did it.
Ooh, that's a good point.
To me, that to me, it didn't move the needle. It wouldn't have been how I would have ended, but you know, it is what it is. And now what's left is arguments and the closings.
Right. And I want to pick your brain about that, Franz, with each side's goals. So let's start with the defense, if we can. Because their theory is that somebody else did this, that law enforcement got the wrong guy. Franz, I'm curious what you think about that defense theory. Is it going to be viable?
So it's not just wrong guy, it's tunnel vision. It's they got the wrong guy because they made a decision and they deprived the victims, in this case, a true opportunity at justice. If you work and massage that theory, Julie, it's a viable argument and theory. And when I say, let me be very clear, viable, you're standing up, you have to argue something, you have to argue something for reasonable doubt. That's not a bad one. It's not terrible. Is it really believable that he himself would have gone in and done this over a business dispute, or more likely someone else? The problem with the viability of that theory is, okay, well, why did someone else do it? Why would someone else just randomly come to these people and kill these people? You've got to answer that question too if you're going to put that theory out there. And you really got to be careful, because if I'm a juror, I'm thinking, okay, maybe someone else did it. Did they do it at his direction?
Ooh, good question.
Because it is certainly all along in this trial, I've often thought, wouldn't this be the guy who would probably hire someone to do this? Like, he doesn't strike me as someone that would want to get his hands dirty and go over to the house and do all these horrible things. Now, it doesn't mean he didn't do it. I think he probably did do it. And I think that the state has done a good job proving that. That said, it's a tight, for the defense, it's a tightrope. It's a real difficult tightrope, because absent somebody else having a motive to do this, he is the individual that has a quote unquote motive. We know motive's not really necessary to convict. You don't have to have that. You don't have to prove that to convict. But every single citizen that sits in the box, every single juror wants to know the why. Why would you do something like this? And this guy has a motive.
Franz, I love your analysis. I'm sitting here and the wheels are turning as you're talking, and I'm thinking, should the defense raise that argument, and they might, what you just said about this isn't someone who would do this. This isn't somebody who would do this directly, get his hands dirty. This would be too personal. His kids, you know, hiring someone would be more likely, and we know he didn't do that. But then you back up if you're the prosecution, and you know what they say, right? He was out of money. He was out of money. He was taking money. And so it's going to be interesting how much they get into that money argument. I can't wait to see it, because these attorneys are good. They're good. We like the opening statements a lot. And the closings, I'm being told, are just getting underway. So we're going to be going there for Court TV Live. Franz, great insights. Let's hit a break now. When we come back, we're talking about what's tipping the scales of justice.
This is Austin 2.0 in a way. He is not the same human being as he was when he was a 15-year-old with intact frontal lobes.
Austin 2.0, what? This little monster murdered 5 people. And some are saying that he's a different person now. We'll talk about that next.
This week,
previewing each day's proceedings in the murder trial of Dale Warner, plus the latest developments in the abduction of Nancy Guthrie.
Opening statements with Julie Grant. Mornings at 8/7 Central on Court TV.
A deadly school shooting.
I just started hearing gunshots.
Now, the father of the alleged shooter is on trial.
Mr. Gray knowingly allowing his son to possess a weapon.
The Gave My Son a Gun murder trial. This week on Court TV.
I killed James because he would get in my way. I killed James with a subsonic .22 I stole from Cabela's. I have no regrets. I'm not mental either. I was sane when I did this.
Oh, that is so chilling, isn't it? The defense case for Austin Thompson continues this hour in North Carolina. And this morning we're wondering, could testimony from his mother and a forensic psychiatrist tip the scales of justice? Well, a judge will be deciding whether Thompson will have a chance at parole after he pleaded guilty to a mass shooting back in 2022, killing 5 people, including his own brother. But his mom pointed to a change in Austin's behavior after a traumatic head injury as a result of a self-inflicted gunshot.
He's still functioning, as we can see, but it was just kind of like an even keel as far as the personality, not sad or angry. He will still laugh, but the emotion is gone because the frontal lobe has been shot out, which is where you keep your emotion.
Okay, and so I want to be clear here. He tried to kill himself after he murdered all these innocent people and hurt the other people who survived. After he did that massacre, then he tried to kill himself, and it was a failed suicide attempt. So just letting you know when that happened. Didn't happen prior to, happened afterward. Dr. George Corvin was called next by the defense. The forensic psychiatrist described the person that he calls Austin 2.0 due to the teenager's brain injury.
This has been one of the more unusual forensic evaluations I've ever completed. Right? Because the individual that I was able to assess subsequent to his arrest in this matter is not the same psychiatric human being as he was before this, because of the self-inflicted traumatic brain injury, but specifically because of the nature of that traumatic brain injury. This is Austin 2.0 in a way. He is not the same human being as he was when he was a 15-year-old with intact frontal lobes. He is now an 18-year-old with very little prefrontal cortex and frontal lobe functioning.
So is it possible that Austin Thompson will be eligible for parole? At the end of all this, it's going to be the judge's decision to sentence him with or without the possibility of parole. What do you think should happen? Hit us up, let us know. Let's bring back in attorney Franz Borghardt. Franz, what do you think should happen, please?
Well, so understand, the possibility of parole when it comes to juveniles doesn't mean that they are going to parole out. It doesn't mean that they will get out of jail at some point. It just means that they will be eligible for that opportunity later. I don't know if a self-inflicted gunshot wound brain trauma injury is a sufficient basis in and of itself for parole eligibility. It was kind of cringy when the doctor said, 2.0. I don't know about you, but I was like, I get what he's saying, but that felt cringy. So what we know is that juveniles aren't fully developed. They're not fully cooked. And you combine that with a traumatic self-inflicted brain injury. I just don't know at this point if there is enough to hitch a horse to that cart. I would say that may be something down the road that I would consider, but for purposes of the sentencing now, I don't know that should be a tipping scale to give him parole eligibility. This was a brutal crime.
Yeah, it really was, Franz. We've heard from some of the victims throughout this process, as you know. So let's go back to some of that testimony now. We have Nicole Connor's husband who testified about the impact his wife's death has had on him.
Austin's actions, broken me. I don't enjoy the things that I used to do because I feel guilty about having fun without my wife. I plan on saying a lot up here, but I can't get through it.
Oh my gosh, it's so painful. Our hearts break for him and all the other victims. Franz, as you said, I mean, this was a massacre. 5 people died, others were injured. I can't see this judge giving him anything less than life without parole. I think he's lucky this wasn't a capital case. What do you think?
So I think if he gets parole eligibility, it's going to be after a big number. It is not going to be a willy-nilly, okay, well, I'm going to give you parole eligibility 5 years from now or 10 years from now. It would be a significant amount. If he gets parole eligibility, it would be after a significant amount of time where, 1, he can serve a sentence that's lengthy. 2, he can have an opportunity to really be 2.0 by being in a correctional facility for several decades. And 3, he can possibly get some mental health assistance that can address, while incarcerated, the true issue of, is he a different human being or is he the same? And I just don't think that you can get that kind of an analysis over 1 to 3 years. I think you need a longer time frame to really see that. So I'm not excluding parole eligibility. I'm saying that I think it's going to be after a 30 or 40 year sentence.
Franz Borghardt, I really appreciate that insight. We'll wait and see what happens for Austin Thompson. Our hearts and prayers go out to all of those victims who've been so greatly impacted by his actions. Franz, we will see you soon. Thank you so much. And friends at home, thank you for watching Opening Statements. If you like this episode, you can watch it again. You can share it with your friends. We're here every weekday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, getting you all ready for the big day ahead on Court TV Live.